Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Serap. In this video, I'm going to talk about changing careers. While I was having conversations with some of my friends, I was reflecting on my life and what I have done professionally. And I realized, which is weird that I realized this a little bit later when I was thinking about it, is that I changed careers since I graduated from high school. And I did this a few times. And I want to talk about how I knew it was time for me to do something else and how I decided what I was going to do next. When I graduated from college, I started working as a school counselor. I studied psychological counseling in college, and that is something I was passionate about. I wanted to help people, and that's why I chose that major. And I was thinking that I would be a therapist, and I thought that I would want to work with adults. But after graduating, I got a job as a counselor at a school, and I worked with kids from kindergarten to freshmen in high school. This was a newly funded private school, and they hired me fresh out of college. And even though I loved having a job in and of itself and doing counseling, I realized that over time that first I liked working with younger kids better than older kids, and then I also realized that I didn't really enjoy working with adults. And during that year, I also realized that I didn't want to practice counseling, but I wanted to do research. But when I applied for a master's program at my alma mater, I didn't get accepted. This happened before I started my job. And during that year, I was thinking of reapplying for the same master's program, doing master's degree in counseling. But once I realized that I didn't like counseling, I've decided that, okay, I'm gonna do something similar, but in a field that I knew that I was interested in, which was cognitive psychology. I had always wanted to be a scientist, and I thought, okay, this is my chance of doing something where I study and become a professor and do research. And cognitive psychology is an extremely interesting field, and I still love the field, and I think it's fascinating. We learn about how our brain works, how we process information, how we perceive things, and it also involves neurobiology, neuroscience, understanding how our brain works. And I applied for a master's program and I got in. And after that, I applied for a doctoral degree and I got in. And when I was doing my PhD, I knew that I wanted to become a professor somewhere, get an academic job at a university. But over the years, I realized that in order to get a job in the US in academia, you have to be willing to go wherever in the country. That could be a place that you really want to live in, or a place that you don't really want to be in, and you should be okay with that. And I realized that I wasn't okay with that. I didn't want to move outside of Seattle. And Seattle area is not populated with lots of colleges, lots of schools where you can work as a professor, especially a research professor. So I also realized that I had to do at least 2 postdocs in order to get a fair chance of being able to find an academic job. And in my field, people usually did 2 to 3 postdocs, each lasting from 2 to 3 years. And I already had my master's prior to applying for a PhD program. I was getting older, I was married, and I didn't want to spend 4, 5, 6 years making not enough money to live. So I've decided then to go into user experience research, and the reason I did that was twofold. One, I knew that this was an option for me because other people in my program, they started their careers as user experience researchers. The other reason was that I was interested in technology. Living in Seattle, there are lots of technology companies here. I wanted to be a part of creating these amazing technologies that we hear about. So I was looking for a job as a user experience research, but what happened was I found a job as a human factors expert. This job allowed me to use what I gained, the knowledge and skills that I gained in my PhD program. I received my PhD in 2012 December, so it was the end of the year, and then I worked at Microsoft for a bit as a contractor, but afterwards I got a human factors expert job, and we supported litigation cases and opined on accidents as experts. We would look into lighting, attention, whether the warnings were noticeable and things of that sort. I even got my own case once. Usually when you start in this job, you support your manager who is the expert, but you do literature review for them, you find scientific evidence for something, you may be summarizing the position transcripts, putting together a file for a trial. You also do a lot of project management, communication with the customers. I did that for 2 years, and the job was really interesting, and I worked as an expert on one case, and that was interesting. However, this was a consulting work, and the way that you were evaluated was based on your billable hours as opposed to the quality of work you were doing. And also, I think part of me was still thinking about technology, so I wanted to work in technology. After I had my first child, I've decided to quit my human factors job, and I took some time off, spent some time with my baby, but then I started applying for user experience research jobs. And I got a good offer at a very good company in Seattle, and I worked for them for 2 years as well, and then I switched to the other company, and I became really good at my job in a short period of time, and I loved it. And I posted videos about why I quit, and I also have videos about what is UX research and what is the current situation in the UX research, which could shed light on why I wanted to quit. But briefly, after working in the UX field for almost 10 years, I've decided that I wanted to stop working because the UX field has always this challenge of trying to prove their worth and trying to educate people about what UX is. And I had enough of that going around, and I felt like I just want to focus on doing a really good job, and I am tired of defending the job that we are doing constantly. Every time a new executive joins or new manager joins, you have to justify your existence, and that did not sit well with me, especially after working in the field and being really good at it and understanding what is good for the customer and for the business, and seeing people not listening to you, not because what you're saying is bad, it's just they don't know who you are, they don't understand what UX is, and they might have also had bad experiences with the UX research in the past. These all contributed to me coming to a point where I was not satisfied with the job I was doing, even though I loved the job itself and I loved the people I worked with. So I've decided that I wanted to take a step back, and work for myself. And I thought I was going to do something that was user experience related. But especially after giving that break, stop working and taking some time off, I realized that I don't want to constantly keep explaining what user experience is to people. I don't think engineers do that. I don't think product managers do that. I don't think the other HR does that. I don't think marketing does that to the amount that UX field does. So I've decided that I'm done. About a year to 2 years before I quit my user experience job, I started writing. This is creative writing. I started writing a novel, and when I was asked if I didn't have to work for money, what I would do, and I would always say I would write. But I never really actually did it. So about 2.5 years ago, I started writing. Actually taking the time and putting in the effort. And writing is a big part of my life. And I love it, and I've decided that I wanted to spend more time on it. But I also knew that I wasn't gonna make money from writing, at least not anytime soon, and maybe never. And I was okay with that, but I wanted to also earn money. But I didn't know how to go about it since I didn't want to work in the UX field anymore. So my latest career change, which is starting woodworking, has been a more radical one. The way that I've decided doing that was a little bit similar to how I changed jobs and careers over time. This was more significant because it's not related to anything that I've done in the past, whereas the things that I've done in the past are somewhat related to each other, where, from psychological counseling to cognitive psychology is not that big of a leap, because again, it's all psychology, a different part of it, right? So from studying cognition and perception to being a human factors expert is not that big of a leap. And then having these research skills doing user experience research is not that big of a leap either. However, quitting a job in the tech industry and starting woodworking is. And this is completely different than what I'm used to. I'm not used to manual work. I'm not used to creating a lot. But what I learned when I started writing and shortly before is that creating things make me happy, because I am creating these characters, these lives, these worlds that don't exist outside of my head, and putting that on the paper makes it exist. And if I share that with people, then it's gonna be consumed by others. These videos are similar. I like creating these things because I am sharing something I know, or something about me, or an experience, and I put it out there, and you choose or don't choose to consume it, but it's out there, and that makes me happy. Woodworking is a form of art, and I'm excited to be learning about it. And because it was something creative, and because creating these things that have a function is also satisfying, and there are countless possibilities with woodworking. And the reason that it ended up being woodworking was, it was something that I always thought it would be fun, but I never acted on. I also loved pottery, but I did try pottery, and I realized that, and I still think it's amazing, but when I tried it, I realized that when you make a small mistake, that whatever you're doing on the wheel can collapse and you have to start over. This is something that I don't think I have patience for. That kind of starting over is not really for me. This is the reason why I cannot play video games, because you die, you have to go to the beginning, depending on the game, I guess, but I just don't have that kind of patience. Whereas with woodworking, of course you can ruin a whole project by making a big mistake, but a lot of the times the mistakes are fixable or hideable, and you don't have to start from scratch, and that is important. also I've tried making some things with wood, and the satisfaction I got was immense, and I thought this is something I can do. So in all of these career changes or path changes, the common denominator is knowing what I did not like, and then also having an idea of what I might like at the very least. And in a lot of cases, I knew what I wanted exactly, and I went after it. And that is, I think, the main piece. And I'm not saying that when you know what you really want, it's easy to quit something and start over. It's not, and there are so many conditions that impacts what you can and you cannot do. For example, when I quit my human factors job, I had this pressure on myself to find another job to bring another income to our household. We had a baby, we bought a house, and it was important for me to be supporting myself. So I had that kind of pressure. And at the moment, I am feeling some pressure, but I think it's the pressure that I put on myself. So I know I'm lucky, and that makes a difference. I don't think I could have easily stopped working if that wasn't the case. However, I do want to contribute to our family financially. I want to be able to be independent again financially, and because of that, the path I chose is more difficult, and I will never make the money that I made in the tech industry, and I'm okay with that. As long as I'm creating and feeling satisfied, I'm okay with that. So not knowing what you want to do next is sometimes, and for some people, the main block to doing something else, even when they are not happy with their current jobs. And what I can recommend to people is just trying things out, thinking about what makes you happy when you're doing it. Are there things that you maybe just see it as a hobby? And turning hobbies into an income is not always a good idea, but is it something that you really want to spend your time on, all your energy to think about? Are there things that you didn't consider you're willing to try? Sometimes even trying things can be difficult. If you're a single parent, if you don't have the means to, try something out, sometimes taking a lesson class can be expensive. However, if there are ways that you can try things out, there might be different options than the conventional ways. There are lots of online classes that can be tried. Time is another blocker. If you're a full-time working parent specifically, but you're supporting people, or if you have health issues, there's so many reasons why people may not be able to do what they want to do. But if you have the time, and if you have the means, you can try things. And if you don't have the time, you can think of, are there ways that I can create time? Are there people who can support me when I can spend 1 hour uninterrupted on something that I'm interested in, to see if that is a viable option for me to continue doing? So it's not easy, but understanding what you don't like in the first place is important. For me, with the woodworking, it is a trial period, and I want to see how well I can learn the craft and whether it's going to go somewhere or not. I don't know if this was helpful to you in any way, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I was extremely lucky to be able to make these switches over the time, but even when I didn't have the financial means, I knew what I wanted, and I was lucky. In this last change, I didn't quite know what it was, but I had a sense of what type of thing I wanted to do, which was creative work. So that helped me find this new adventure, and I hope you can find yours. And writing about it, thinking about it, trying things out are some of the ways that you can go about it. If you want to learn about UX, please watch my previous videos, and then I'll see you in the next video. Bye.